Okay, it says the stream rate's not as good as it should be. However, we should be live. Let's double check, because I never trust the technology. There we go. It says we're going live. I'm going to click on it. Okay, it says the stream rate's... Yep, okay, that must be working. That must be working. Alright, so it's been a little while since I've done a live stream, and the reason for that is just I like the production quality I get from the videos I record on this little puppy right here, and when I have time to edit things I can make them more streamlined. I don't know that I have, but I've got it down. I've got it down to, like, I think my last video was 12 minutes long, which I think is a more readily accessible time frame, you know, something that people are willing to commit to. So I've got... Who's interrupting me? That's going to be a subject of conversation as we get into it. So, the first thing I want to discuss today is... what's this video about? Oh yeah, Feminism and Surnames. KJV only. And the devil. Now this is a Preamblous, Chatulous, as they called it. So that what this video is it's just a little exploration, a little, a slalom round about the topics. You know, not really touching on them in any kind of detail, just kind of circling around them. I like to do a little video like this sometimes, just to explore ideas and also get some feedback. Get some feedback on what people might be thinking about these things too. As I say, I might be wrong. I might be wrong, you know. So, yeah, here's a story. This first bit's just a story. Hear this. This is scandalous. This is scandalous. This is a true story that's played out in human history. So, I've been listening to these Reddit stories, and sometimes they're not all scary ones, right? Sometimes they're just very human stories. Okay, so one of them involves a man, wife, and child. A young family. They go out shopping one day, and they encounter a friend of the wife in this store, and they haven't met in a while. And they do a bit of catching up, a bit of chat as the husband stands idly by with the child. And then it comes to the point where the friend asks the wife, "Oh, what's the name of your son?" And the wife kind of hesitantly offers the name of the son, and the friend, who hasn't met this wife in a while, this woman, says, "Oh, like your ex-boyfriend?" And at which point the husband's like, "What the fuck did you say, bitch?" He's like, "What was that? What?" So he's obviously taken aback. He's taken aback by the whole scenario. As he would be. As I'm listening to this Reddit story play out, I'm thinking to myself, wow, I mean, that is such a betrayal of trust. How is she going to dig herself out of this hole? You have named our son after an ex-partner. Oh, gosh, that's cringy. That is a horrible situation to be in. So how does it play out? I have the full story here, folks. I have the full story. This is just like a little starter on this dish that I've prepared. These dishes I've prepared in tonight's menu. So, obviously, he gets back home and he says, "Look, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about you calling our child, you know, giving it the name of your ex-partner. What the hell is that?" And she kind of gets a bit, you can imagine how a woman would try and weasel her way out of this one. She's like, "Oh, I just feel like you won't be able to detach the name from the person," as if it's just such a great name, you know? Like there wasn't an infinity of other possible names you could have named the child. It just so happens that this ex-partner had this great name, and you wanted to name the child, and it's your problem if you can't detach the person, my past, from the name of the child. So that's the card that she plays, and of course in the comments nobody's buying that. Nobody's buying that situation right there. So he says, "Nope, I'm not going to accept that. You know, that's just insane." Um, so he says, "Look, do you still have feelings for this ex-partner?" And she says, well, he actually asks, "Do you still love this ex-partner?" And her response is, "Yes, but in a different way. You know, love expresses itself in different ways." And he's like, when she said that, I was just like, oh, that was nope, nope, you should not have said that. And I mean, in a way, I can accept that. I mean, in a sort of detached, objective manner, it's good to think of people with, a with a positive outlook, have a positive regard for your fellow human beings. But in the context of a relationship, that probably wasn't the sort of thing you wanted to convey to your partner when obviously you've done something that I would consider to be a grievous. You've inflicted a grievous wound upon your relationship. You really gotta work some damage control there. So the guy's like, "Look, we need to rename our child." Now the child's already 4 years old, but he's like, "No, we need to change the name of our 4-year-old child." He's like, we can make that name a middle name if you wanna, if you wanna go down that route. But he is not. Our son is not growing up with the name of another man that you used to go out with. That's not the way this is playing out. And she was furious. She's like, "You cannot change the name of our child." And people in the comments are like, "It sounds like she just wants to carry a piece of this former partner forward into her life." And it's like, that's not fair for her to do that, to inflict that not only upon her husband but to use her son. And I'm pretty sure if the father would have explained to the son, "By the way, your mum's did this," then that son would have looked up to the dad and said, "She's a whore." Like, my mother is a whore. No, probably not, but I guess the kid wouldn't look too favourably upon that. They might want to play the gymnastics in their mind and be like, "Oh no, detach the name from the person," but who's buying that? Who's buying that? But yeah, no, so basically the guy got divorced. The guy got divorced over this name. And this comes into the next topic of the importance of a name, the significance of a name. Now, ultimately, I think a name can be a very egocentric thing. It is an egocentric thing. It's the ultimate, right? You have a name, and it's a part of your self-expression. It's a part of your identity, and for some people, it's an immutable characteristic. This is your name, right? But as I understand it spiritually, a name should be more than a phonetic utterance. It should be more than the vibration of sound waves converted into electrical signals understood in the mind, the brain. Sorry, it should be more than that. Your name should be your spirit. You'll know them by their fruits, right? It should be the outworking, the outward expression of yourself. Therein is a name, right? There's a sort of higher, more evolved, more enlightened way to consider a name, you know? Gosh, I can't bring the scripture to mind just now, but I think it's said somewhere in the scriptures that there's a stone with a name on it. This sounds completely foreign to me, like I haven't touched this scripture in a long time, but I'm pretty sure it says somewhere, it might be in Revelation, I should know it if it is, that somebody's handed a stone with a name on it, with a name that's not been uttered for you. There is a name for you. I don't know if I just heard an insane person say this to me once down the street. I think it's in the Bible, people. There's a stone with your name on it, with your true name, that's never been uttered, never been heard by human ears. And it's more than just like an express. It's more. It's more. It's something more enlightened. Anyway, so I was speaking to this big stinky atheist feminist that I've been spending a bit of time with, going out on a few dates and stuff like that. And we're talking about serious relationships and commitment, and we're talking about marriage, being wed. Okay, coitus, is that a thing? Is that the same thing? I don't know if it is. So, what happened in the way that conversation worked itself out? Well, she's got a brother that's married, and they're gonna have their second kid soon. She's from a family, a husband and wife, enjoying their retirement together. And she says, if I get married, I'm not going to take my partner's surname. And I said to her, listen, if we ever get married, you would definitely be taking my surname, because it would be important for people to know that you are my property, and you need the appropriate branding. Now, whether that's legal or hot iron, that's your choice. To which she said, that's hilarious. That is a funny commentary on this situation. And she did take it in good jest. That's why even she says she's a feminist. It's like, it's not the atypical expression of that. She can actually muster a sense of humour. So, she says, no, I don't want to conform to the patriarchal system, these patriarchal dictates that say to me, that prescribe, that foist upon me a change in my identity. And I can see, she didn't actually say all those words, I'm just trying to go inside her mind, right? But I'm thinking she's thinking to herself, my sense of who I am should not be changed by this cultural expression that I'm just supposed to accept. And I think that's wrong. I think she should accept that. Look, it's different. If you grow up in this society, which is probably the English-speaking world, Christendom, okay, if you grow up there, from a very young age you understand that there are certain cultural traditions that take place. And indeed, this young woman, is from a family where that has had an outworking in her parents and with her brother. But all of a sudden, she wants to buck convention. Women, you might as well change your last name to vegan. You might as well change your last name to pro-life. Because ultimately you're just I don't know, it's just this very egocentric, self-serving, self-validating virtue signalling that you're doing, and at the expense of your culture, and you are destroying Western civilization. For what reason? Because you think that you're a feminist, and that's more important than life itself. Nah, she didn't. I think that's taking it too far. She did say, look, if I had children, they would have the man's name, of course. And I was like, okay. I said, I mean, that makes sense. But I'm thinking, if you're going to have a family, you want a cohesive unit, don't you? And as a cohesive unit, shouldn't you all have the same name? And you can't really, it's difficult to use a biblical example, like the body of Christ and all the rest of it, marrying and all that, because that kind of worldview doesn't apply to this person, big stinky atheist feminist. But I don't know, I just feel like it's a bit of a nonsense. It's a bit of a nonsense. I mean, don't get me wrong, as I've said, I understand her position. She wants to retain a sense of self and not give that up. And as a man, it would be weird. Like, I know I have friends. Well, I have a friend that I've noticed who got married and took the name of the wife. And it's not a bad name. And if you had to measure up surnames and be like, right, one of our surnames is a little fucking weird to the ear, and the other one's kind of cool sounding, let's go with the cool sounding one. And I kind of feel like they did that. That's what they decided to do. And I mean, ultimately, this whole conversation is very futile, right? It's very futile because, just in the ultimate sense of things, as I've just described what a name is, I think it's not that important ultimately, And if you wanted to go all atheistic to kind of get there too, then to be utterly nihilistic, the kind of most pessimistic expression of atheism, then life is meaningless and your name is ridiculously insignificant. And I also think that's true in a very spiritual way as well. But as far as operating pragmatically, practically in the world and culture, I think it just makes sense not to just throw away the conventions that have been set up over hundreds of years. I think there's some utility in these things, and there's a reason for these things, and to just arbitrarily, okay, we'll get there, arbitrarily. This is what happens when you roll your R's. You don't finish words properly. Arbitrarily. Yep, that's the better way to say it. Arbitrarily. Throw away these things that have had a place, As the Ravi Zacharias once said, before you... No, he doesn't quite have that accent, does he? What is it he says? Before you throw down why is he Jamaican now? A fence. Lean on it long enough to think why it's there in the first place. Okay? That's like a weird Rhodesian accent. I was watching that, I don't know, there's some kind of meme, isn't there? Some kind of like African meme where the guy talks about a sickness, the sickness. Actually, and I was like, where does that come from? And then I watched the video that it comes from, and it's just this African guy having a town meeting talking about homosexuality, and he starts to describe in grotesque detail the kind of practices that homosexuals indulge in. And it's just like, oh man, really? I don't think they do this. I don't think. Like, he starts talking about how they ingest poo. It's like, they eat the poo. We do not want this sickness here. And I'm like, man, nah, I don't want to listen to this. I was watching a video from Sargon of Akkad, actually, and he was describing, he was interviewing this woman who had been sort of targeted by woke progressive people because she's a biological essentialist, or she believes that if you're born into a male body or you're born into a female body, you are what you are. To suggest that you can be a man born into a woman is, according to her, a nonsense. Which, it makes sense to me. I've looked into it a little bit about female and male brains. Like, can you have a female body with a male brain? Like, can you have a man brain? Does that even make sense to sex the brain? Like, what makes the cells of the brain male or female? I've looked into that, and there's some articles that seem to suggest possibly, and then there's other ones that say, nah, not really. And it's all very politicized as well. It's like, my goodness, can we just have some objective, record here? But it sounds really, it doesn't sound right to sex the brain apart from the body. What sense does that make? I mean, the brain is this operating system, and you, through your lived experience in a female body or your lived experience in a male body, you don't really have anything to compare your own experience to. What am I trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is you kind of come into the world not so much neutral, but with nothing to compare your life to. So it wouldn't make sense for a particularly young child, let's say a 4-year-old, to say, I'm actually a girl or I'm actually a boy, when they've been biologically born the opposite of that assertion. Because they don't really have the life experience to make that kind of distinction yet. They haven't lived 50 years as a man and then thought, actually, looking back, I think I was a woman. They've not had that kind of experience, don't have that kind of insight to make those kind of calls. To speak of it being a man born in a woman's body is, I don't know, it's almost a cult. It's like a weird religion you're positing, where you're a disembodied spirit feminine spirit that's accidentally gets sucked into a male body. I don't know. It sounds strange. And they were sharing testimonies of just how, you know, people who, let's just say a man who kind of thinks they actually might be a woman. You know, they've gone so far with this transformation and then decided, actually, I'm just a kind of effeminate homosexual. I'm not a woman. I never can be a woman. And then there's stories of people who have went ahead with the gender reassignment surgery and actually mutilated and castrated and abused their bodies only to... And it's horribly when you... the detail that Carol Benjamin and that women went into. Oh my goodness, man. And these people are like, I've ruined my body. Like, I've legitimately ruined my life at this point. And there's no recourse. You can't go back. It's just, we don't have the technology. This is like fucking Dr. Frankenstein shit. This is like some weird, you know, those horrible weird tests that you hear the Nazis did. It's like that. Only it's at your expense. Like, give us £250,000, $250,000, however much, and we'll mutilate you. We cannot turn men into women, and we cannot turn women into men. If there was some kind of potion you could take to do that, hey, you know what? Do it. Go and do it, then come back and see how you feel and mix it up. But we can't do it. We don't have the magic, okay? We don't have the technology to make that so. All we can do is hurt people. And that's not right, you know? Honestly, it's not right. There's ways to manage, man. Even if you really thought that you were a female in a male body or vice versa, there's ways to manage it. Having a support group round about you, just continually egging you on and making you feel, and making that the source of your identity as well. It's like, just find your identity in something else. Reach into something else. There's more to life than your sexual identity, you know? What's the word? Transcend it. Yeah, transcend that. Yep. Stunning and brave. Stunning and brave. So the other things we're going to talk about are... Oh, here we go. King James Version only, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Mostly gentlemen, some ladies. No. I want to say some really unkind things about King James only people. And I'm gonna do it. But at the same time, I'm gonna try and couch it in a sort of trampoline of niceness, as Anthony Buzzard would say, with utmost respect. I don't know what else he would say. He says things like that. So it is you know what? That's how you know you got a quality scholar in your hands. Anthony Buzzard and Don K. Preston, when they are critiquing someone, they always take that little pause. They'll punctuate their thought with that whole, with the utmost respect, with, no offense, but, they do that. They do it like that. But not in a weird, passive-aggressive kind of way. I think they genuinely mean not to inflict too severe an injury with their astuteness. I like that, They're both good guys, just need to marry the two together. Isn't it interesting when you have people that you look up to and you're like, wow, they're so right on this, and then there's somebody else and they're like, wow, they're so right on that, but the two of them will never come together. You ever been in that situation, maybe at high school or primary, elementary? Maybe you've got two friends, and those two friends hate each other, and you're like, oh my goodness, why are you doing this? Why can't you guys just get on and then we can all get on? I literally had this situation play out in high school where I had two friends and they would both speak at me simultaneously. They would both engage me in conversation at the same time, both speaking about different things, and then they would just talk, and I'd be like, Are you guys for real? Like, you're not even going to engage with each other? You're both talking to me. You can hear each other speaking. And I'm supposed to, answer you at the same time? I would need a new language to do that. That would make sense. Although that would probably scare them, you know, if I did answer them both at the same time. Scare myself. I don't even know what I was talking about. What was that all about? Yeah, King James only versions. Okay, so I got into I made some little notes here about this whole, oh my goodness, the King James only peeps, right? Right, where's my little notes on this? Here we go. Oh yeah, so the subtitle of this video, I'm going to make a video on this, is like the crazy person approach to scripture. The crazy person approach. So you have your Good News Bible, right? You got your Good News Bible, which is, you might as well write your Bible with a crayon. Might as well write it with a crayon. You get your Hallelujah Scriptures. Nice try, Satan. You have your New King James Version, which is my favourite. New King James Version. If I wanted my product cut with rat poison, I'd go out and buy crack. No, the only version you need to read is the King James Version. Straight up. You don't need to dilute that with anything. Just King James. Unadulterated. Just 100% pure Colombian King James. Isn't that nonsense? Like, why would you restrict and narrow your pursuit of truth where you would only pick up the King James Version only kind of mindset and be like, oh no, this is the only way to find the truth? Right, I mean, you can break that. First of all, when the King James Version was put together, right, from the Byzantine manuscripts, the buddy that Erasmus, the guy who did that, had 10 or 11 manuscripts to work with. Today, or rather since that time, we have found 6,000 manuscripts, okay? 6,000. Okay, so are you going to listen to some little weirdo working in a cupboard back in the day? Or are you going to listen to modern interpretations where we have a wealth of insight beyond anything that the person who wrote that version could ever dream up? I bought like a case of King James Bibles. Listen, I love the language of them and they're beautifully phrased. But to restrict yourself to one version of the Bible is an insane idea. It's an insane idea. And yet you literally meet people like this. I've met people who follow this King James only vibe, and they pick up their Bible and they make it their God. They make it their God. And I've encountered people on this website, on YouTube, that Jester guy, who does videos on preterism and stuff. He's made some claims about how the Bible is the mark of the beast, you know, which is an edgy thing to say. I don't think it's an accurate thing to say, because it's clearly not. It's clearly not. With the utmost respect, you know, it's just not. But I understand why you would say that. I understand why you would say that, because it's almost like these people need that slap in the face. It's like, this Bible is not the thing. It's not the thing. Think about it. Think about it. The Holy of Holies, the temple in Jerusalem, had the very presence of God in it, a place more sacred than any scroll. And what was its fate? It was destroyed by the Romans. Utterly destroyed by the Romans. And that was the holiest place, the very house of the God of all creation. What happened to it? Rubble. Rubble. And yet you're like, no man, King James Version, man. King James. Let me tell you about King. You don't know who King James was. King James is Scottish, okay? He's a kinsman. King James, the first of Scotland. Is it the fourth of England or something like that? I don't know. But King James the first, was it? Aye, I think he was the first King James of Scotland and the fourth of England or something like that. Something, maybe it was the sixth. I forget which way it works out. I'll get there when I make the video. Anyway, he was of my church as well, Church of Scotland, the Kirk, John Knox. And first of all, that's one of the things people do when they say about the King James. They're like, oh, but the King James is it's made by very reputable characters. King James version's reputable. All the other Bibles are made by like just this basically demons, basically demons. Well, let me tell you a little something about King James, right? Because people, this is going to annoy people, because you get your King James version, you probably think I'm a very, straight-laced type of person. I'm very traditional. Well, let me tell you, King James was a homosexual. King James was, you're holding a gay man's Bible, okay? Do you smell the perfume of homosexuality from your King James version? Because it's basically gay. How does that make you feel? Now, I don't believe it's a gay book myself, but a gay translation. But these are the kind of like nonsense things that people get hung up on. The guy who wrote the Good News Bible, he had a cocaine habit back in the day. It's like, well, King James was personally invested and present when they tortured women for being witches. He was sitting there like, getting a first row, front row seat to these barbaric practices. Although he did kind of come round towards the end and note that, these modern wonders that we see are more likely to be illusions than anything else. Be wary of this. But at the same time, he was present when that went down. These are not particularly lovely people, and again, it would be silly to restrict yourself to these things. And even the people that wrote the King James Bible, they didn't write the King James Bible and say, this is it, we got it, we got it, this is the ultimate distillation of truth. No, the very people who translated the King James Bible said, look, we are standing on the shoulders of centuries of work. And we know that in the future more things will come to light. That more will be understood, that other people will make significant contributions to translation. They didn't write it for people to get so mad with it. It's kind of like Christianity itself. It wasn't created for people to invest their particular brand of insanity into. It's be completely mishandled. The people that wrote the King James Bible would look at these KJV only people and think, what the fuck is wrong with you? That's a detestable way to go about your life. And again, you've got so many different books. Why would you? Take the King James Bible, just like I've got 15 copies of it over there, but also read the New King James, read the Hallelujah Scriptures, read the Good News Bible, read the NIV, read the Young's Literal Translation. Read as much as you can if you want to get the truth, you imbeciles. Why would you restrict yourself to one book? Totally retarded. I wasn't going to drop the R word. That was going to be in the title of that video. So, yeah. New King James Version. What is that all about? So what else do we have here? Yeah, so there's the Alexandrian, the Sicilian, Byzantine. Yep. Erasmus only had the 10 to 11 manuscripts. There's over 6,000 manuscripts now. Another thing that people will say is that the King James Version is the most accurate, okay? Because they'll point to places in the King James and say, look, in King James chapter this, verse that, there's more words. But if you pick up your NIV, the words are gone. The words have gone. They've excised the truth. They've taken it out. They've raptured verses from the Bible. No, they haven't. They haven't. What's happened is the people who wrote the King James Version, what you see missing isn't missing from other texts. So there's 4 Gospels. There's John, Matthew, Mark, Luke. Or Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John if you want. And what the people who penned the King James Version translation did was they added the line from the other gospel because the other gospel says that, so I'm just going to put that into this gospel, and that's why it looks like there's more verses or less verses, because the people who wrote it are like, oh no, that goes with, I'll just put that in here. It's not missing, it's just in the other book. So that doesn't work. And then you've got a great one here, don't you? King James Version only people. Where is it? Where is it? Is it John? 1 John, the one about the witnesses, the three witnesses. The kind of weird Trinitarian verse that we get out of it. Where did it go? There's a strange Trinitarian. Yeah, 1 John 5, verses 6 to 8. The three that testify, the water, the wind, all this stuff, right? So, what do we see there? Well, first of all, it's not anywhere to be found before the 14th century. It's just not there. Okay, Erasmus, the guy who was translating at the time, said, look, if you find me a Greek manuscript, because the Greek and the Hebrew were like seen as the purest cut, they're like, if you can find me that 100% Columbian that says that verse, that gives me that whole there's tree that witness thing, then I'll put it in one of my Bibles. But it's never been seen. And then what happened was, a couple of weeks later, some people came up and were like, oh, would you check this out? We found one. And then Erasmus is like, yeah, let me see that. Okay. And then he put it into like his 3rd edition of the book. But that's your King James version for you. Peddling lies. And like, I don't mean to say like it's a book of nonsense. It's clearly not. But you have to see it in its proper place. And that's not as, it's the purest form, basically written by angels and then handed to me personally in a bed of feathers. No, okay, it's a Bible, it's a book. It's not Jesus. I've met someone online who told me this is Jesus Christ. The Bible is Jesus Christ, because they both share the title, the Word of God, apparently. And so the Bible is, I'm not being ironic or anything like that, the person believes the Bible is basically Jesus Christ. This is the Son of God. Utter drivel. That's where your King James Version only mindset takes you. That's the logical outworking of it. No, it's not. But clearly we can see there's absolutely no justification at all that you can give for having one particular Bible version, one translation. That goes for NIV only or anything else only. Okay, to be so restrictive in your search for truth is totally nonsensical. What was it Jesus said? The people who worship the Father in spirit and truth are the ones that will be pleasing. Does that sound like spirit and truth? Just restricting yourself to one version of the Bible? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It really doesn't. You can try and think that it does, but it doesn't. So I've given you all the reasons there. Smear tactics against the people who made other translations don't work, because the King James Version peeps don't stand up to scrutiny either. Missing verses, load of nonsense, not a thing, and in fact the KJV includes verses that don't exist. What else? I don't know. There was other reasons. Oh yeah, the manuscript issue, the fact that it was only written with the insight of 10, and we now have 6,000 Greek and Hebrew and different manuscripts to work with. Such an incredible witness, Like someone made the point, a translation scholar made the point. What would you trust? The witness of one person, or the witness of 6,000? Why would you restrict the Christian message to the one where there's 6,000 other voices crying out? Yeah. So yeah, the King James Version, the King James translation, the people who wrote it, they didn't present it as an accurate and pristine book. They presented it as a work in progress, okay, that would benefit from new insights and ultimately would bow out to greater precision of expression that can be found. And even the King James utterances, that kind of Shakespearean prose, it's or at least maybe not the same. It's not the same. It's not. I don't know if you'd call it Shakespearean prose, because I think that would include writing style, and I don't think that's true. But just the language, right? That King James language. In fact, sure enough, Shakespeare was alive at the same time as King James I of Scotland. They used to hang out. They used to smoke weed together. No, I don't know if they did that, but yeah. It's just like, why would you think that that's appropriate for people to know right now? I mean, the English language changes over time. It's changed in the last 5 years. If you just look at the English language throughout any length of time, things happen, things are said that portmanteaus, people coin things, neologisms. People invent new words. What was that? I heard something recently. Like in America, people say, "I could care less," whereas in the UK, the expression is, "I could not care less." I couldn't care less. There isn't a metric. There isn't a measurement of care to be found beneath this level of care, because I could not care less. But in America, you say, "I could care less." The inference there is that there's actually a level of care that you've still to burn up. There is still some care left in the tank. If you could care less, then you still care to a degree. So you should be saying, I could not care less. But I'm pretty sure people in America do say that. It's just in other parts, it's kind of got lost somewhere. That's just a little tangent, a little quirk of linguistics. Remember, I did a module on critical. What was it called? It was CAD. Critical. No, it's not coming back to me. There was something to do with linguistics. CAD, CAD. What is critical analysis? No, totally forgot the name of that course. That was helpful. That was worth the £2,000. Oh no, thankfully I don't think I had to pay for that, did I? I don't know. What else is going on? So yeah, we're going to talk about the devil. I'm going to make a video on all these things and make it concise and pointed and indisputable. But let's see how far we've went here. So we've covered names. We've covered King James, the son of Mary Queen of Scots. John Knox didn't care for Mary Queen of Scots, but I think he got on okay with the son. Right, what else are we writing here? Alright, let's just jump into saying. Didn't want to jump right into the devil and that, but let's just jump into it. So it's you might want to sit down. For this one. It's about the devil. He's dead. And people are thinking, what? How can you say that? How can you say the devil's dead? Haven't you seen the apocalypse that's taking place outside? And no, I have seen it. And I've been listening to these Reddit stories, and I have to say they sound very compelling. I love it when people do that. I'm an atheist. Okay, I'm a scientist from a long line of scientists. It's basically the man having adoration for another man and saying no homo. Well, this is the no homo of like the atheist when they indulge in paranormal chat. You're like, I'm not a spiritual person. Okay, I'm an atheist, but I seen a ghost. I seen it. And I like those stories. People have been describing these weird paranormal phenomena. And so it would seem to me that, there probably is some kind of an interaction between living people and deceased people and or strange, peculiar entities. But what? How can I say that Satan's been dealt with and maintain that there might be disembodied intelligence is at work. Okay. Well, it's really about truth, isn't it? It's really about it's really about just saying like, or just understanding the narrative of the Bible. Let's say that. Even if the narrative of the Bible doesn't really present us with the full, you know, the full coloured picture of the reality of all things. Like, it doesn't fill in all the blanks in our metaphysical contemplations of existence, all of our questions. It doesn't give us everything. What is the narrative of the Bible anyway? Well, the narrative is this. If you look at Romans, if you just look at the book of Romans, right, because this is where we're going to derive our answer. Well, part of the answer, but a significant part of the answer. If you look at the book of Romans, okay, so Paul's wrote a letter to the Christians in Rome, and it's quite a personal letter, and it's quite a personalised letter, and he commends and name drops various people in this letter: Phoebe, Priscilla, Aquila, Epaenetus, Mary, Andronicus, Junia, Urbanus, Stachys, Apelles, the household of Astrobulus. And can I say I love the name Astrobulus? I might change my name to Astrobulus. What a fantastic name. Herodian. I like Herodian. The household of Narcissus, Tryphena, Tryphosa. What a great tag team that would be, Tryphena and Tryphosa. Persisus, Rufus, Asyncritus, Phlegon, Hermas, Patrobas, Hermes, Philologus, Julia, Nereus, Olympus, Timothy, Lucius, Jason, Sosipater, Tertius, Gaius, Erastus, Quartus, and various others. So this is a very personalised letter, and it's clear who he's writing to. It's clear who he's talking about. Is anybody going to debate it? My goodness, I actually saw the some Democratic senator or something in the impeachment. Was it the House of Senate? The House, I don't know. I forget the name of the different houses in American politics. I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's just call it the Senate, where they were going to take the impeachment thing to. And the Democratic guy was like this: is anybody going to debate this? Is anybody going to debate that Donald Trump would do this? Is anybody going to debate that? And after I heard him say that, it's like, I don't want to say that anymore. Now that he's saying it, like someone as disgusting as a Democrat, I'm getting on. They're all the same. They're all the same. But yeah. Gosh, American politics. Who would I vote for? You know what I think's gross, man? I think the Democrats just always come across as like really ugly, really just unattractive, because they have this fantastic candidate in Tulsi Gabbard, who's beautiful, intelligent. She's an ex-veteran. No, she's not an ex. You can't be an ex-veteran. She's a veteran. I'm going to call her an ex-Marine because that says she's an ex-Marine. You know, she cares and loves her country. She gets on well with everyone. She crosses party lines. Like, Republicans love her. Democrats like her. Only the top brass in the Democratic Party seem to detest this woman, particularly Hillary Clinton, big hill dog. She's not into it. It's like, just... You know what I mean, man? Like, if you've made it to the top of the power structure, you want to send the elevator back down. You know, you gotta pick up this Tulsi cat, because she's gonna go places. That's your future, and she's ethnically ambiguous. There should be points for that too, as part of a progressive candidate. You know, and the fact that this is a woman. You know, because they like to play that identitarian card. It's well, she ticks all the boxes. Like, she literally ticks every single box. There is no better candidate. Well, you got big pervy Joe Biden. Like, that's going to go anywhere. Nobody likes these people. You know, that other woman, the weird woman that claimed to be half tomahawk or something. It's like, no, you're not. That's not your lived experience. You're just a weird, cringy old woman. And I hate that. Those tryhards, you know what I mean? Who just kind of, I don't know, latch onto whatever seems to be trendy. It's like, that's so disingenuous. It's so disingenuous. Just be you. Just be like, I'm a kind of weird old lady. And people will be like, alright, okay, I can get down with that. Don't start talking about how actually I'm an African woman. Actually, it's like, you're clearly not. And nobody's buying that shit. And the fact you think you need to say that to get votes is gross. You know, because I'm not going to vote for you by the colour of your skin. I'm not going to vote for you by any kind of immutable characteristic like that. I'm going to vote for you on your card and your policies. I'm going to vote for you on your merit. What can you offer? And it just looks like Tulsi Gabbard has it all, man. Has it all. And all these other people, the Yang and I don't know who else is, you know, in the Democratic race right now, but they're just so boring. They're so milk toast. I don't know the milk toast expression, but they are. They're just so pedestrian and uninteresting. You want to put a woman in the White House, make it Tulsi. But Donald Trump is definitely going to win that second term. Absolutely. He's going to landslide it. It's going to be like the voting over here in the UK. The people said, actually, Brexit. Then the Parliament's like, no, you're not getting it. Well, then the voting came round, and when it came down to it, we overwhelmingly voted in favour of the Conservative Party to get the Brexit thing through. And after 4 years, finally, the democratic process is going to have its way. It's going to work itself out. It's going to be allowed to function. And, you know, that's crazy that it took so long. What was I talking about? Yeah, the devil. The devil's in the details, folks. The devil's in the details. So, the book of Romans is written to this audience, isn't it? Is anybody going to debate that? No, nobody's going to debate that. So, how does it conclude? Well, it mentions all these people. It says, hey man, I hope you're doing fine, all the rest of it. Everybody says hi. And the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly. Shortly. Where have I heard the word shortly before? Oh yeah, I heard it in Revelation 1:1. Boom. Okay, I heard it in Revelation 1:1. In fact, the very subtitle, as I like to call it, of the book of Revelation is what? This is the book of things that are going to happen at some weird, distant, you know, in some future civilization that we can't fathom or think about. Just going to tell these 7 churches because it's pretty cool. I just want everybody to know about this. Even though it's got nothing to do with you people, I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm going to write this whole letter like it's going to affect you guys, but none of this is. Literally none of this has any significance to any of you 7 churches, but I want you to know. And I want you to hold firm. And it's going to be pretty cool. In fact, I'm going to guard one of you churches from the tribulation of this time, okay? But you're going to have to make sure you're taking your vitamins, because this is going to happen thousands of years in the future. And you know, life expectancy isn't really that great at this part of the world, at this time in history. But we're gonna try it. We're gonna give it a good old effort, folks. No, stop being ridiculous. Stop being deliberately, purposely dense. Right? Stop it. Stop it. I went onto one of these like. What do you call it? Hebrew only? That's not a kind of Christian. Like Talmud only, Talmud keeper. One of these particularly pious Christian sects where the people are all very ancient Hebrew. And I presented this argument to them. I showed them all in detail what Jesus said about his second coming. And actually, these very devout, pious people were like. You know, not a lot of likes, but it attracted some likes from this group, which I found very surprising. And it just, and nobody dared to argue. Is anybody going to argue this? Is anybody going to? Nobody argued this. Nobody argued it, and I'm not surprised. And I'm not surprised. And I'm not presenting that as like, oh man, I was able to make this argument because I'm pure smart. It's not about me at all. Take me out of the equation. I'm just a guy that's delivering the hors d'oeuvres. I'm just taking the food to the table. You know what I mean? The snacks are already made. I'm taking it out. I'm be like, look, this is the spiritual snacks right here, okay? And people are eating it, and they're like, this is it. This is clearly true. I'm not going to take issue with this guy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to slight the translators of the book. You know, I'm not going to talk about how homosexual King James was, because it's not important. What's important is the quality of the message. You know, does it stand up to scrutiny? Does this make sense? I'm taking these little sachets, these little satchels of what do you call it? I don't know. Some kind of husk. It's got a lemon flavour to it, and it's supposed to be good for you. Like, it kind of apparently clears the cholesterol out of your system, which is something I might be interested in doing. I don't know. Okay. So what did I say there? Something about names and stuff. Yeah. So I presented the case to those people. I think it's like a Unitarian bunch of people, and they saw the sense in it. So I thought that was good. I think that the power of the argument is, as Don K. Preston says, you know, it's about catching the power of it, and everybody that's sitting waiting there with a baseball glove of truth is, you know, they're there, they're where they need to be. And when the power of the argument comes, they're ready to catch it. But it takes a while to develop that capacity to catch the power of it, you know, to extend this metaphor. It really does. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of mental exercise to have the flexibility and the reflexes necessary. You know, that's why I was going to make a video called Don K. Preppers, because you have these, like, end of time preppers. You know, a Doomsday Preppers, I think the TV show is called, and it goes around about, this is my farm, and this is where I keep my bagels. Like, there's a place where people, like, they have these little places underground. I think Alex Jones was talking about his, you know, he has a little bunker there, buried into the earth, just in case things get sour. And, you know, I get it. And so we have to be not Doomsday Preppers, but Don K. Preppers. Right? You see how that works. You see how that works. I don't need to explain that to you. So no, that perfect sense. Perfect sense. We need to be able to. We need to exercise our minds. We need to, as Anthony Buzzard said, we've all been wrong. Which I think is yes, we have all been wrong. Nobody steps up to the plate with you know, a complete and fully fully researched and deep and profound understanding of all things. That's not the first step, you know, and you shouldn't be embarrassed about that, and you shouldn't pledge your allegiance too strongly to any one worldview, but you will. Sorry, to any one expression of the religion, but you will. And that's kind of like that's like a disposition of some people that I've noticed. You know, some people hear King James only is the best version of the Bible. And instead of sitting there and really mulling through it, they'll tell themselves they've really thought it through. But instead of really thinking through it, they'll just hear a couple of arguments that sound kind of right and go, oh yeah, no, that's right, that's my world now. That's who I am. And anybody that disagrees with me is the devil. It's like, really? You know, and yet some people you might find that that's who you were at some point in your past. And you need to be careful that once you recognise this kind of behaviour, that you don't fall back into it. You keep that open mind. Yeah, so in Romans 16:20, Paul tells, that's quite a really disjointed segue. Right, let's get back into what I was talking about after that tour de force of nonsense. And the God of peace will crush Satan under your feet shortly. And we see this, where is it? Genesis 3:15. Is that maybe where it is as I look over at the tab that's open with that scripture? Yes, it is Genesis 3:15. We read, "And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. And sorry, he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Isn't that interesting? I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And that's why Paul says in Romans 16 that Satan will be crushed underfoot shortly. Okay. And then I went into the book of Revelation there and told you how in Revelation 1:1, this is the book of things that are to take place shortly. Okay? These things must take place soon. We're told that in verse 1 of chapter 1. And throughout, this whole idea coming quickly, the soon end, is emphasized. And then ultimately in the end, it's underscored with the line, do not seal up the words of this book, for the time is at hand. Okay, the time has come. This is the time where all these things will transpire. These are the days of vengeance, that all things written shall be fulfilled. To quote Jesus. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do, folks? Satan's dead, and the world still seems to be in a state of disarray. Well, look at it this way, right? Just look at it this way. Satan was dealt with. There's so many ways to interpret that. Not ridiculous ways. It doesn't mean the population of giraffes in Africa has increased from 2013 to present. It doesn't mean that. Okay, there's a narrow, restrictive window of how you could interpret what's being said there. But the idea that the adversary has been destroyed, it is at first a very personally empowering message to take on, okay? Because if you think of the adversary, right, this adversarial voice, this accuser, as being defeated, then you can understand this to be personally empowering, and that you can recognize that the state of the world now in the new covenant is such that our spiritual master Jesus has overcome the obstacle of Satan, the obstacle of adversary. And with that power dynamic changed, with that adversary quelled and dealt with, we can with confidence step up and say, you know what? We are better than, or rather we can triumph over that which has been crushed. The grandest accuser of them all. If that can be dealt with through this faith, then my relationship with my pessimistic mindset, my negativity, my whatever it is that's eating me up, that can be overcome. That's the message you can take away from it on a personal level, on a sort of a globally kind of globish kind of way. You can look at it in different terms. To me, that's the most resonant and profound way to look at it, right? Like, man, we don't know. We don't know the complexities and the weird idiosyncrasies of the spiritual world. We don't have that kind of insight right now. Some people might claim to have it, and some people might actually have it. The majority of us don't, and the people who claim to have it, we kind of look on with suspicion because we can't know ourselves, because we haven't experienced it. And then is it subjective? So if they've experienced it, did they really experience it as it is, or did they experience it as makes sense to them, and on whatever level of acceptance they have to the idea? Like, they can't really see the fullness of it because they're not quite there, so it was translated to them through particular images and visuals that make sense in some way to them, but isn't actually the full. You know what it's like. You've seen The Outer Limits, yeah. You've seen The Twilight Zone. You know how these things are. Yeah, it's you know. So Satan's been dealt with. Okay, lion and lamb laydowns. But yeah, people point to the world and say, look, how can Satan be done? Because X, Y, and Z happen. Wars and stuff. It's like, yep. What are you going to do about that? The narrative of Scripture is clear, concise, and pointed, and it says everything happened. It says that. It says it. What you make of the world today is of no consequence to that narrative. You know, there was another way I had of communicating that idea. I don't know if it'll come back to me, but basically that's it. The narrative says everything happened. Everything played out as it was supposed to happen, and we are now in the new covenant age. So your task then is to reconcile that narrative with this reality. And if you can't do it, then you're just playing. You're just playing. If you can't do it, you're not willing to have the spiritual insight necessary to recognize truth. You're restricting what truth means, and you're keeping it physical. You're like, if it doesn't manifest in accordance to my expectation, then it hasn't manifested at all. God, man, that's scary. Are you really want to take that kind of egocentric attitude before God? Isn't that a crazy idea? The idea that we're even hidden from God, you know? Because we're not. That's another thing, you know, when people say, I wouldn't want to deal with God. I wouldn't want to deal with God if I was in your shoes. It's like, really, I think we're kind of dealing with God every day. I don't think being alive kind of masks us from God, you know? I'm not, like, who knows how the spiritual side of things plays out. It might be that upon entering into the afterlife, depending on how that all works out, that God is still as great a mystery in that plane of existence than he is now, although I tend to think that's not the case. I think there is a lot more insight and a sort of universally shared oneness with that, but I don't know, maybe there's different ways of living. Some people have suggested so, with their kind of insights into the afterlife, that there's almost different strata. That George G. Ritchie character said that he saw like a really learned place, like a place full of like scholar-like academics who were poring over the important works of the universe, you know, and there was like a quiet sort of monastic kind of hum about this place, you know, and everybody was so engaged and engrossed in their own works. They weren't so much communicating with one another as they were just focused in their work. And these were good people. I mean, don't get me wrong, these were good people, but George G. Ritchie said, I kind of had the impression that these people weren't quite fully evolved. Like, they were still kind of not quite getting it. They were doing important stuff, and it was very, you know, very intellectual and all the rest of it, but it wasn't quite there. It wasn't quite there. They were still kind of missing the mark a wee bit in terms of fully realising the Christ spirit. And then he saw at one point, far off in the distance of this dark void, he saw a city of light and beings of light so radiant he could almost distinguish between buildings and people from light years of distance. He said that seemed like the kind of the highest heaven, so to speak. Who knows, right? Who knows? Anyways, what we do know with certainty is how to read a book. What we do know with certainty is how to read a story. We have been gifted in this experience of life with the ability, the capacity to open a book and read it. And anybody that's honest with themselves knows that the preterist way is true. The only thing to hinder the preterist interpretation is an inability to reconcile the world today with the narrative. That's it. The narrative is clear. That's not the problem. And I think we can all accept that's not the problem at this point. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, you know that preterism isn't the problem. Preterism is completely cohesive. There's no kinks in that armour. It's there. I don't think. No, I'm going to correct myself. Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. That was me reflecting on it. It's right. That was a fair statement. There's no kinks in the armour there. The only problem is the world out the window there. And you're like, oh no, I don't see many lions and lambs laying down in that window there. Well, like as I said, it's on you then. If you're not willing to see it, then you're not willing to see it. But I appreciate that there's a reconciliation to be had with God now. That we're all people under God now. That's the narrative message there. And that lived human experience isn't to change. We're still born, we're still biological entities, we still go through a biological death, but life is a lot more interesting through that narrative. So I think that's me pretty much said it all. So this person I was talking about names and stuff at the start of the little chat here, she's away to her brother's gender reveal party. That's like because her brother doesn't know whether or not what gender they are, so they're going to reveal it. No, what happened was they have a baby, so they're going to reveal it. It's a boy. I knew it would be a boy. The superior sex. No. It just means the parents are going to be happy. No, there's nothing better. No, girls are fine. Okay, I'm only joking. I've had a wee bit of grief recently, but I'm over it. Do I seem bitter to you? I'm over it. That looks like a delicious cake as well. Kind of. See that? It's like kind of sponge, like a blue sponge. How lovely. Oh, amazing. Boys win again. Good. Right. So I think, let's just see now if there's any wee commentations. Right, I'm turning towards the commentations now, right. Why would you only read a Bible approved by a politician? Why would you do that? Why would you only read something that's been prescribed to you by a fallible person, just as fallible as yourself? They're like, oh no, this is the one right here. And it's like, can I look at this one over here though? Is it okay? No, you cannot read that one over there. If you read that one over there, you might as well throw your lot in with the sinners, with the prostitutes, okay? You are a whore if you read those other translations. It's like, wow, calm down, sir, okay, sir. Because, if I just maybe look at some other material to broaden my horizons. No, it's not okay. If you're hearing those kinds of things, then just back away slowly and leave that scene, because they don't have your best interests in mind. They're trying to control you. And it's worse if you, of your own volition, subject yourself to that weird, culty vibe. Like you can only read one version. Get out of here. Hi, Sonic Grace. It's always good to see you. I had to get a living translation to understand the Old English and the KJV. Absolutely, that's it. I mean, the KJV is not an accessible book, particularly to people outside of basically England in the year 1600. Like there's other ways to more succinctly and more colourfully convey what is being said. You could probably, I mean, they've actually translated the Bible into old like Scots, into Scots, you know. Where it would say all kind of things like, I don't know, I sometimes forget, I mix up Scots with just slang, but I don't know, there's ways of speaking in Scotland that are a wee bit more difficult, you know, to understand. It's really, really, my goodness, it's kind of tricky. So they've written the book in Scots, and you could probably do that with like inner city youth in, I don't know, in Michigan and stuff like that. You could probably, Atlanta, you could probably go down the projects and write a Bible in their kind of talk, and it would more clearly communicate to them the kinds of things that, I don't know, maybe they need to hear. You know, because if you hand them a King James version only, it's not going to mean anything to them. They're going, what is this? And then people will say, oh, well, just give them a dictionary. Just give them a dictionary of King James English. Really, you expect these people to sit there with their Bible in one hand and their decrypting kind of key in the other hand and try to decipher this? What the hell is this saying? Is this really your picture of how to witness? What an absolute nonsense that would be. Prepared R says, I would also add that most the never translations were translated by Catholics. Most of the other translations, yeah, most of the newer translations were translated by Catholics. I mean, do you want a big stinky Catholic translating your Bible? I'm only joking, but do you really want that? Is that what you want for your kinfolk? No, yeah, I mean, the Catholics have their own agenda, don't they? The Catholics have their own agenda, and you don't want to be, you know, restricted in what you're reading, because you're not going to always get an unbiased view of things. And that's why it's good to have lots of different sources so that you can have a fully informed perspective. That makes sense to me. Studying Greek showed me scripture doesn't mean what most think it means. Yep, studying Greek. Yeah, that's it. You know, there's man, there's so much that goes into translation. You know, there'll be expressions in the Hebrew that are then translated into the Greek, that are then translated into the English, and it's like you got to make sure that you really catch the essence of what's being said, because there could be an old turn of phrase, for example, that you might mistakenly take as literal. One of them for me is the whole 40 days and 40 nights. You know, like, for instance, if you're just speaking colloquially in Scotland, someone might say, or even in America, someone might say, oh man, that took forever. That took forever. And can you imagine somebody wrote that down? And William said, it took forever to find the bread. And then you're like, oh man, it took forever. Remember that time it said it took William forever to find the bread? It just goes to show that. And really, I just meant it took like 10 minutes. I expected it to take 2. You know what I mean? I wasn't making any kind of profound point there. It's just a turn of phrase. I don't know. Just there's wee things like that. That was a bad example, right? But there's wee things like that. Anyways, that's an hour and 17 minutes. That's a big rambly video. So thank you very much for watching. There's a few things, as I say, I'm going to be working on. A few different ideas I'm going to be presenting. And yeah, I think that makes sense. I'm looking forward to... I'm not actually looking forward to watching Picard. You know that? I think Picard, the Amazon Prime show, will actually not live up to expectation. But it would be nice to see Patrick Stewart back. I'm a big fan of the Next Generation. You know, and I get the impression that, you know, that was of a time and of, you know, it has its place in history. And they couldn't recapture that vibe, and they shouldn't either. But yeah, whatever. I'll go and see what happens there. Right, I am off ski now. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Sorry, this video has been quite high energy. Try to burn the calories, you know. Yep, and then I'm going to be, as I say, I haven't touched on it in this video, but I will be making a video on the beasts that we read about in Revelation 2. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and God bless you all. Bye for now.